Welcome to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast, where I empower you to develop sustainable habits, challenge society, and take messy action. I'm Christine, life balance coach and world champion ballroom dancer, and I believe that everyone has the power to create their very own life by design. The Recovering Perfectionist Podcast was created with a mission to encourage a life of abundance by finding peace and acceptance in our own imperfections and developing healthy self-love through sustainable habits and manifestation. It's time to align with the universe for the full human experience and redefine what it really means to be successful.
It's too good, the secret is out and wow.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast. This is actually a bonus episode for season 2. Why are we doing this episode? Well, we had some interesting news happen this week and last week. The Olympics are happening in Tokyo, which already is very interesting news because for the first time ever, don't quote me on that. I think it may be the second time. I'm not sure. The Olympics did not happen in 2020, so they had to move it. So they are calling it the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, but in 2021. And our GOAT, greatest of all time, gold medalist, ready to take on the world, Miss Simone Biles, has created quite the stir with her decision to step down from competing due to mental health and what I guess in gymnastics they call having the twisties, meaning that when she's in the air she can't, she doesn't know up from down. So in order for her to protect herself from not getting injured physically, mentally she just was not there. There was a lot of pressure on her, and she has decided to step down, and her teammates are stepping up and filling in the positions for her on the different events. Obviously, this has created quite the controversy around the world because, well, let's see. I mean, listen, this is the Recovering Perfectionist, people. I am not going to sugarcoat anything. Simone Biles represents the United States. And let's face it, the United States is all about being number one and winning, no matter what cost. And for the first time ever, someone has said, I'm not going to put my mental health and all this pressure on my shoulders. I'm not going to take the risk to injure myself physically and not be able to compete coming up in the future. And I'm going to, step down, do the right thing for myself and for this team and not cost the team a medal, because she was also thinking about her team. Obviously, that's been getting some backlash from these, do it all at all cost. I don't have mental health issues. I don't know what this means. I think you're just being weak, blah, 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 blah. We're going to get into all that because I've been reading all the articles. I've been reading all the comments on this. And honestly, I'm so conflicted. On one side, I'm like, wow, we are so moving forward. This is amazing. Congratulations, Simone. I support you 100%. If you can do it and you can, come forth and say, I, am struggling and I need a break or a rest, then I can do it. Then we can all do it. She's given, basically what she's doing is she's giving little girls and little boys permission to say no. And I'm the little girl in that. I am so looking at her going, wow, if you at that level have the weight of the world on your shoulders and feel like you have the right to give yourself permission to say no, I am so freaking proud of you. And don't ever let anyone else tell you that you can't. You don't owe anyone anything, and this is your journey. So this is amazing. This is history was completely made. We're moving forward in mental health. The conversation is getting bigger. This is amazing. And then you have the flip side of the coin, because we always do. And the flip side of the coin is obviously people saying that she is giving up. She's not pushing enough. She is letting down her country. Seriously, the worst thing you could say to someone like that in that situation. And whether those people that are saying that have mental health issues and don't know it, or don't have them, or whatever, everyone has some sort of mental health, on a daily basis. We're all living in the same world scope. They just don't understand what it's like to perform at that level. And I'm sorry, if you're not performing at that level, as far as I'm concerned, you have zero opinion. You are not the one that's standing up for your country. You are not the one that you're sitting on your couch and you're writing a comment on a Facebook post with your opinion, and you are not doing anything to help the situation. So I think that is ridiculous. So we're going to get into a little bit of some of the things. There was an article, of course, Mr. Pierce Morgan. He is quite the controversial, outspoken person when it comes to things like this. He's definitely had his moments about Prince Harry and Meghan and their withdrawal from the royals and all the different things, and he makes himself very, very known, and I think we all have learned how to appreciate that in our own way, because it's not great. So yeah, he basically wrote an article, and it was titled, "Sorry, Simone Biles, but there's nothing heroic or brave about quitting because you're not having fun. You let down your teammates, your fans, and your country." First of all, who said anything about fun? Like, it's not about fun. She did mention, I think in a news thing, that she said, yeah, this just isn't fun anymore, in the sense of there's so much pressure on her to compete, to do well, to medal, to be gold, all this stuff, that she's like, the sport has now become a job. And she always said, and I very much relate to that, anyone that's in entertainment or in any sports or anything, when your sport that you love so much and you just live and breathe for has become so much pressure, then you lose interest very quickly. But that's not the point. Honestly, he took that completely out of context. There was way more to the story than that. And we'll get into that. And I think what he said after, I'm reading through this article real quick, he said, "I prefer the old Simone that would do whatever it took to win." And that's a powerful statement right there. For anyone who has ever gone through anything mental health related, anything it took to win, or whatever it took to win, that is something that's such an immature statement to say, and ignorant. So what you're saying is that this 24, let's remember also that Simone Biles is 24, right? She's not even over 30 yet. She's barely out of what would be considered college. She made a decision for herself, because she's not a robot. She is not a pawn that has been created by the United States to compete for the United States and win for the United States. She is a human person who decided to go into gymnastics, found out she had a very high level of skill for this sport, and did very well. Got very excited, loved what she was doing, got good results and praise for it, and now she has reached a level that no other Olympian, gymnast, anyone on the planet has reached. There's no handbook for that. Nobody has taught her how to handle this situation. She's just taking it day by day. The coaches are trying to make sure that she's okay. Well, here's hoping, because we've all had that whole backlash with the coaches thing too. But here's hoping that she has good people around her, which honestly, for her to be able to make this decision, it looks like she does. And I think when you hear someone that says that you used to be the person who did whatever it took to win, that is just complete ignorance. Like, let's go back. Now we have some people, reaching out and showing their support for Simone. So you have people like ice skaters, other gymnasts, Nastia Lukin, Carrie Strug. We're going to get into that story if you don't know her story. Dominique Monsieux. We also have Adam Rippon, who is an ice dancer, and he made an extremely powerful post about the risk that was being put if Simone competed. He is someone who, at a very high level, Olympian, ice dancer, skates on very thin ice, knows all the risks and jumps and things like that. But he also made a very good point that he said, in my sport, I stay upright. And in gymnastics, they don't. They flip all upside down and do all kinds of, 180s and all these things. And then when they land, they have to know exactly where they are. And for the most part, they always do. That's why they are good at what they do. But Simone has referred to this term that gymnasts use called the twisties, which in her words is that you really don't know up from down. So you are getting all turned around, you're very dizzy, and it is very, very dangerous because you just hope you land on your feet or don't break anything when you do land. And the idea is that not to allow yourself to compete or to continue to do this if you have that. And someone asked her, well, how do you fix it? You kind of go back to the drawing board and you go back into like the ball pits and like a safe place so that you know that you're not landing on, the mats and possibly breaking an ankle or a knee or popping a hip out of place or whatever it may be. And the beam, I'm sorry, can we talk about the beam being like 4 to 5, inches of nothing? And that's actually her best, from what everyone said, that's her best division. But that is a very intense thing to ask someone to do, to be flipping upside and down on a 4 to 5 inch beam. That's 2-3 feet off the ground. The whole thing is crazy. So anyway, she pulled out because of that reason, knowing that if she had the twisties and she also just was not there mentally, then she needed to make sure she didn't injure herself and just fly into nowhere. Also, I believe she did compete at the very, very beginning, and she landed very out of character for her. Everyone was very surprised as to how she landed. It was, she was very off balance. She didn't quite know where she was, and that was the first sign that was like, she said something was wrong. And she then went to her coaches and said, I need to stop. So that just takes so much courage. Like, how are people looking at this girl and saying, you let everyone down, you're letting yourself down, you're letting your team down, first of all, a team, what's the cliche? There's no I in team. So a team is there to support you when you need help. A soccer team, a football team, a gymnastics team, a school team, whatever it may be, if someone is feeling like they're not up to their best performance, the other members of the team come in and they help. And that's why it's not just one person competing. So that's exactly what happened. The other team members were not let down. So you're speaking for other people out of turn when you say that. For those who are saying that she let her team down, her team did not feel that way. Her team felt like they could finally step up for her and be there for her because she's the one that got them there. And her name and her skills and their skills as well, but like everyone in collaboration is what got them there. And now she's having an issue and they're going to be there for her. So you had Jordan that stepped up. I think Michaela also got a second chance to, when she thought her Olympic journey was done, she stepped in for Simone on the floors and won silver, which was huge. Like, that was a huge historic moment for her, thinking that her Olympic journey was done and she was able to step in, do it for Simone, do it for herself, and got herself a silver medal that she thought would never happen. So much courage and strength from these girls, and Simone included, who are all in their 20s. I mean, what the amount of pressure we're putting on these girls at that age is ridiculous. This is the world stage. Simone tweeted something that I think hit a lot of people hard. She said something that really proved that mental health is a real thing. And I think that some people glazed right by it, but other people realize that have had mental health issues, that this is a mental health issue. She said, the outpouring of love and support I've received has made me realize I'm more than my accomplishments and gymnastics, which I never truly believed before. Like, what? I'm more than my accomplishments and I'm more than gymnastics, which I never truly believed before. She never thought that she was worth anything. I mean, I'm not going to actually, no, I'm not going to say that because I don't know what she's feeling personally. But I think to the world, being on the world stage, I think that she felt like she never believed that she was worth more than what she could bring to the stage gymnastics wise and her accomplishments. Like she has to win gold or she has to win or she has to compete at a high level in order to feel like she is worth it. If that doesn't scream mental health, I don't know what does. Like clearly you're living under a rock. So for those people who, after they read that, if you didn't understand at that point why she made the decision that she made, is beyond me. That for me was a complete change point for me when I mean, and I was Team Simone from day one when she made these decisions, but that for me was like, oh my gosh, finally the people who doubted her can see that this is someone who has been struggling with feeling like she can perform at a high level all the time. And I'm sorry, but that's just completely unrealistic and unsustainable. You cannot perform at that high of a level all the time and just do everything all the time. I mean, who's another one that I just watched a documentary on? Tiger Woods, right? The greatest golf player of all time. And he has gone out many a times, and they show it in the documentary, and not performed at his highest. And it just happened. And then he was in a lot of, accidents and injuries and surgeries and all these things. And things happen. They basically, these athletes put themselves on the line. They sacrifice their mental health, their emotional health, their relationships, their physical health, all of these things. And yes, they're competing, like this is what they signed up for, but that's just the same thing if celebrities say, well, I don't want to be followed by paparazzi. Well, you signed up for this, you're a celebrity, poor you. That's not, I'm sorry, that just to me does not make any sense. Like every job, every position in life has pros and cons. And just because they're in front of the world's eyes on the world stage does not mean that you have the right to pick at them and decide what they are allowed to accept and not accept. So they're human just like we are. The support that she's been getting from not only her teammates, but her fans and former gymnasts that competed at the Olympics has been extremely eye-opening as well during this week, specifically because now the conversation about mental health is being amplified. And at that time, in the 90s, in the 80s, even in the early 2000s, mental health was just not a thing. You were there to compete and you're an Olympian and you need to act as such. So when you're going back and seeing people like Carrie Strug, Nastia Lukin, Sean Johnson, Dominique Monsieur, Adam Rippon, as he mentioned, these people are showcasing that they had similar issues, but maybe were not encouraged or were forced, is the word they're using, to compete, and put all of that aside, which brings on risk of injury, risk of more mental health issues, deeper, rooted emotional trauma that they have maybe dealt with more in their adult life. And these are all coming out now. I loved gymnastics when I was younger. I did not compete in gymnastics or do anything with it. I was in ballroom dancing, as most of you know if you've listened to my podcast. But I ended up doing a book report on Carrie Strug, who I just found to be so iconic and so strong and brave and courageous in what she did. For those of you who don't know, she was in the Olympics in the 90s. She was on the U.S. team in gymnastics, and more things are coming out now, so I need to get my facts straight because what I knew then versus what I know now is very different. But at the time, she was praised because she had a tendon issue or something that happened around her tendon or her ankle or something, and she competed. I believe it was on the vault, and landed on one foot and was basically carried off by her coach at the end of it. You can definitely look that up on YouTube. It's all over the place, and especially coming back up now. And she was praised for her bravery, for her strength, for her courage to get through the vault. And then she won gold for the US. And when you hear the story like that, you're like, wow, what an achievement. She overcame adversity. She overcame injury. She pushed through mentally, and she did it, and she won gold. That's a heroic Olympian story. And then you start to hear her come out now that Simone is, being more vocal about her mental health and where she's at. And the story's a little bit different. So the story has had some more details to fill in the gaps. Apparently, the competition that she had right before that, I'm not sure what it was, but she competed and landed. I don't know if she had the twisties in the air and all that stuff, but she just was not on that day. Probably shouldn't have competed, is what she said, and definitely felt off. Spoke to her coaches about it. Her coaches said, just push through. You got this. You'll be fine. It'll be great. So she pushed through. She competed, landed it very incorrectly, and almost kind of fell, collapsed, and hurt herself. She then hobbled off to the sidelines, and she told her coach, I can't, do I have to do another one? I think was her question. Like, not even, I can't do this, I'm not doing this, like Simone. She said, do I have to do this again? And he said, you just have one more. Can you imagine a coach telling you that? Like, you basically just, like, almost, ate it on your landing, and you are hoping that you don't have any permanent damage or something that's going to, like, affect your career, and your coach is like, it's fine, you have one more, you can do this. Like, where is your mental state in that point? Like, you were already terrified to do this one, you did it, you landed wrong, you might have injured yourself for long term, and now you have to do a second one. Like, what? How is it? And this girl is in her 20s. So she's gathering herself, getting herself ready, and that is when she did the famous vault that she landed on one leg, because basically she couldn't land on the other leg. The other leg was completely, like, not working. And then her coach made it this big thing, carried her off. She, arms up, won the gold, the whole thing. But when you think about just the disaster that whole situation was, and how the coaches just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And also, that's just what you teach Olympians like that, is like, power through, gather your thoughts, get your mind right. But again, just like Adam said, these girls are not upright the entire time. They are flipping through the air at extremely high altitudes, and they are not, if they're dizzy, if they're whatever, they are not landing correctly. And the danger of that, for them to maybe break a neck or a shoulder or a leg or whatever, is not seeming to come into play with some of these coaches or these people who are criticizing the girls for not competing because they know they don't want to risk injury. And then you have some people saying, well, then she shouldn't have gone in the first place. And Simone made it very clear that when she was running trials right before the Olympics, before they left, she was fine. In the United States, she was feeling great. There was no issue. Once she got to Tokyo, things started changing, and she started feeling pressure, and she started, and all the things. And mind you, this is not like a newbie. Like, Simone is known as the GOAT, so she is not someone who's just like, oh no, she couldn't handle the pressure. She got to the Olympics, she finally made it, and, it ate her up. And it's like, no, this girl has been to the Olympics before. She crushes it every time. I think we're all forgetting that this last year, we all went through a pandemic. We all lived through social distancing and emotional instability and isolation and just, the craziness of, like, our life and health put at risk, not knowing, people dying, all the things, that no matter how strong you are, it doesn't matter if you're Olympian or not, that mental is going to eat away at all of us a little bit at a time. And I think we're all realizing now the kind of the major effects that that had on us emotionally, especially some of us going back out into the world and, getting vaccinated and all these things. Like all of a sudden we're realizing, oh wow, like that was a trying time. And there is going to be some lasting effects that we're going to have to deal with. Some future trauma, let's say. So on top of that, on top of her prepping for the Olympics in 2020, right? I'm sorry, but this is something like when you prep for the Olympics and you know down to the day what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be competing at that high level, you prepare your entire 4 years for this, and then they tell you that the Olympics is going to be moved because of COVID. And now all of a sudden that throws your entire thing off. So that is definitely a huge part of what could have been. That, COVID, the pressure, her having to, come back for her next Olympics and perform like she did the first one. Like there's so much that goes into it, and why people don't understand that this is the case. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. So anyway, seeing all of the former Olympians come out and really start talking, I think Dominique as well was saying something about how she landed. There's a video going around of her landing incorrectly on a beam, and afterwards she was left to not even be looked at by a doctor or anything. She could have had spine issues, all these different things. So again, that kind of goes into the whole Larry Nassar thing with how the girls are being treated and the sexual harassment and all that. I don't want to get into that because that's really not the topic of what we're discussing here. It's more the bravery, the mental health conversation, all of that. But as you can see what these girls have gone through year after year after year, and how things have not really changed a whole lot. And basically, in order for things to change, someone needs to start the trend. And I think by Simone doing that, it has opened up a door for future generations of Olympians and just people in general to just be okay to say no and to put themselves first, both mentally and physically, and to see that the coaches and your teammates and the world can back you and be like, we support you no matter what. We're praying for a speedy recovery, whatever it may be. And I think that is where the world needs to be going, is that performing at a high level is great on one end, and it's amazing to see these Olympians do what they do, but we also have to remember that they're human, and they have every right to call in sick one day. You know what I mean? Like, so many people in the corporate level can do it all the time, and then all of a sudden she's an Olympian, she can't do it. And it's like, why? That's her job. She has every right. And that's why you have teammates, because they can pick up the slack. And if one of her teammates did that, she would be right there to pick up the slack for her teammates. So that's why it's a team situation. I want to discuss also just a graphic that's been going around from, I believe, I can't remember what country, but a couple of other Olympians from other sports and other countries have been saying that silver and bronze are really not celebrated. And Simone confirmed that. She did an interview with Priyanka Chopra Jonas, and she was talking about how when she got bronze, people were like, bronze? What's bronze? Like, that's just not good enough. And Priyanka was shook. She was like, they did not say that. I'm sorry, but if you are, first of all, just being accepted to go to the Olympics is huge. Like, I'm sorry, there are maybe, 1%, if that, of the population that go to the Olympics and do this. So that already is like you've won. And then to compete with, however many there are in a division and place in the top three, which would be bronze, silver, gold, is above and beyond outstanding. So and that I think is the problem of, the United States in general. Again, I'm not going to be, sugarcoating this. Like, this has been a huge issue for me because I come from France, and in France we have champions and vice champions. And the vice champion is second position. Now that we don't have a term for the third for bronze, but all three, if they are being handed a medal, is phenomenal. And, we've had this conversation in our ballroom industry as well, that vice champion, what's a vice champion? Like, that's completely insulting to the champions. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me right now? Like, the fact that you place second is amazing. And some people in our industry, we have quarterfinals, first rounds, which means you're in a group of like 30 other couples and you place second. That's huge. And they're all really great. So I think that the United States, like, if you're not first, you're nothing. And that can play huge on someone's mental health, because basically she's going out there to try to compete and just place and do an amazing job and do her best. And if it's not gold, then she might as well have just not even competed, according to some people. In which case, it's better that she didn't. And then people are, criticizing her for that as well. So honestly, the moral of the story here is you will never make everyone happy. So just take care of yourself, because nobody's going to look out for you except you. So you need to make sure that you make the right decisions for your mental health, your physical health, because whatever decision you end up making, someone will always have something to say and criticize you for something. And usually they're the ones that you wouldn't take advice from in the first place. So why take their criticism? That is huge. I'm sorry, if you have won a bronze or a silver medal, as far as I'm concerned, you are just as amazing as winning gold, and congratulations to you on all of your accomplishments, because that is outstanding to be able to do something like that. And just to kind of wrap up, I will say though, guys, I really would love to know your opinions on this. I want to keep it respectful. Like, let me just say that again. Keep it respectful. I think, before I go into this last part, I do want to say that for the most part, I would say 90% of the noise, let's say, that we're hearing is been positive. People have been praising Simone. They've been telling her how amazing she is, how brave she is for standing up for herself, for choosing, every single day we've been getting more news from Tokyo, whether or not she was going to compete in her next events. Obviously, she didn't compete in floor. Michaela competed, gave her an opportunity to win silver, which was amazing. Huge congratulations to Michaela. And then I think she pulled out of another one as well. But that's fine. Like, it's okay. She's being evaluated every single day to see if she's mentally ready, how she's feeling. She's running trials. She's doing different things. And I think whatever she decides is up to her. And it's up to, and a lot of people are supporting her in that decision. And they're saying, you are in our book, you've already won. You've put mental health. There was a graphic that had 4 podiums, bronze, silver, gold, and they were all at different levels. And then mental health was in the back, and Simone was leaping over the podium, and it was the highest podium. And that is just so huge. And I think most people feel that. They're feeling like she has, kind of like that one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind kind of thing. She has done a giant leap for mental health. And so many people are feeling that support, and we're hoping that she feels that support as well, that she has just completely changed the game when it comes to, literally, this is exactly why I wanted to do this bonus episode, Recovering Perfectionist. She has competed and created this persona of perfectionism at such a high level, and the one time that she decides, I'm not going to be perfect for a minute, and I'm going to allow myself to breathe and take a break so that I don't further injure myself mentally or physically, like, that is huge. And to admit that at the level that she's at gives everyone else permission to do the same thing. There's absolutely no excuse anymore for you to constantly have to uphold this persona, this perfectionism, this identity that you've created. It doesn't matter. You will not be letting anyone down, and if you do, those are not your people. And those, like we said before, whatever decision you make, somebody will feel like they were let down, and that is not your responsibility to make sure that they feel okay. It is your responsibility to make sure that you feel okay. And that is huge. So to close out, yes, I do want opinions. I would love comments. I would love conversation to be started, about this episode and about Simone's decisions and how you've been feeling. But I also want it to be kept respectful because this is a huge leap for mental health and perfectionism, and for us all to feel like we don't always have to be achieving in order to be worth something. And just go back to that tweet from Simone saying finally she feels like she is more than her accomplishments. That is freaking huge. And that is something that can give her the strength to heal mentally, but also next time she competes, she knows that she has the support, of the people around her, that we care about her mental health and not just about her getting a gold medal. Most up to date, because I'm going to be putting this episode out tomorrow, so the most up to date up to today, which is August 2nd on Monday, is that Simone will be competing in the final beam. I knew that this might happen because we were just waiting on the last one, and I was very conflicted about whatever the answer might be. I thought maybe she would do it just because it's her best division. So I was like, maybe she'll do it because she feels the most comfortable in it. Maybe she'll do it because it's the last one, just her last opportunity in this Olympics with, 4 more years to compete later. Who knows if she's going to do it. So maybe this is like her, I got to do this for me. I hope she's not trying to do it for everyone else. Yeah, I'm very conflicted about the decision. I do want to see her compete. Of course, I 100% support what she's doing. But I also want to make sure that she's doing it for herself and doing it for her team and not for the world, because the world is whatever it is. Good, bad, or ugly, doesn't matter. She needs to make sure that she's healthy and she's mentally prepared to do what she needs to do. So I'm looking forward to seeing her compete. But I do want to say that regardless of what her decision was, whether she decided to compete in the final division or not, her bravery and her courage throughout this entire Olympics and her focus on amplifying the conversation of mental health has been the win of this Olympics for me. And I think for a lot of people, honestly. It's made for great media, so the media outlets won. Whatever, they're going to win regardless. But I will say for people who have been struggling with mental health, especially after the year that we had with COVID, seeing someone like the GOAT, Miss Simone Biles, show the bravery that she did was the gold medal for, I think, a lot of us. And regardless of how her results are for the beam, we love and support her, and we hope that she allows herself to feel like she won mentally and she did something for a lot of people that is going to resonate long after the gold. And I think that's what some people don't realize is that, when they say she let down her country and all this stuff and blah, 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 she wins a gold medal. So she goes out there, she wins gold. Like Carrie Strug, for example, she sacrificed her mental health and, risked injury, got injured, and won the gold. Let's talk about how she feels after that. Okay, so everyone was happy that she won gold, but now how is she? Nobody asked how she was doing after the Olympics. What happened to her? We hope for a speedy recovery. Okay, great, thanks, let's move on. The gold medal feeling only lasts for so long. But what Simone did with the courage to put a focus and put mental health on the podium, that's going to resonate for decades. That is changing the game. That is one step forward for mental health and one giant leap for anyone who's ever had any issue and not been able to say no. That is going to resonate for generations to come. And that, for me, and for I think a lot of people, is much more powerful than her winning another gold medal. We've seen her win gold medals. It's amazing. And yes, we want her to continue to succeed in that category, but she is the GOAT for a reason. And those are the people that need to create change. And honestly, her winning another gold medal is not going to create lasting, deep, intentional change in the world. Her standing up for herself and choosing mental health And her, particularly her mental health, and choosing to say no to her coaches and for her teammates to step up and all the things that she did is going to last forever. And that is changing the game. That is something that is intentional, that is going to resonate, that is going to echo throughout the world. Another gold medal for the U.S. is not a game changer. I'm sorry. And that may be controversial to say that, but it just isn't. What she did is a game changer, and it's going to help future generations, and it's going to help generations right now. I'm getting help from it, from just seeing that my entire week has been shifted and feeling like, wow. Like, I mean, I literally had to jump on and do a bonus episode when my season 2 ended because I felt so called to celebrate the choices that Simone made this week. So I'm going to end with that, and I wish her all the luck and the support that she needs through this final division. We will all be cheering her on. Doesn't matter what happens. The results are they're not important as far as I'm concerned. What she's already done and the fact that she's going to compete and do this is the win. That's the gold for me. And I hope that this resonated with you. And if you have any questions or comments or anything, please start the conversation with us about this. Actually, don't start. I didn't start it. We're continuing the conversation on mental health and the conversation of breaking the perfectionism ceiling. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm seeing more and more examples of this as we go, and it's so freaking cool. So with that, I bid you adieu on season 2. And I will see you all. I'm already prepping season 3 guests and topics and all the things. Season 3 is going to be amazing. So I'm so excited for it. And I love you all. And I will see you very soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast. I'm Christine, and if this episode resonated with you or spoke to you in any way, please feel free to share. I absolutely love hearing from you guys and your thoughts about the topics based on your experiences. And also, if there's anything you want me to talk about, just screenshot this episode and share it on social media with your comments. Your feedback really helps me to curate episodes that best serve you. If you have time, I would greatly appreciate if you could leave a review wherever you're listening to this episode, whether on Apple or Spotify or any other platform. I'm wishing you a blessed week ahead, and remember, perfection doesn't exist. Take messy action. Healthy habits keep us balanced, and you are enough.